So, first of all, I think that there's a few videos that, or at least concepts, that are required to truly grasp what I'm trying to get at here. The first is that there's three pillars of self love, there's acceptance, forgiveness, and gratitude. The next is that I think that we have a purpose, and that purpose in life is tied to having lessons and unique experiences and situations while we're here on earth. And the third thing is that there's something beyond the physical that we can't quite place, that I'm just going to call and use the word soul, but you can call it an energetic force, but essentially something that lives outside of your physical self. And that would be true for every single person. And so all these three things are tied together. And the way that they tie in together here is when you have an experience with another individual, all of these experiences that you have with that individual form a certain word. And that word is a relationship. In some way, shape, or form, you have a relationship with that individual. Now, this relationship can be acquaintances, it can be more deep than that, it could be friends, it could be family, whatever have you. Could even be a love relationship, right? But every single experience that you have with a person forms some kind of relationship between you and that person. Now, for a lot of us, and I would argue that it's probably most of us, if not all of us, there are certain relationships that don't go well. They leave us with an individual that's in our head that we'd rather not remember. We'd rather not go back to and ruminate on. But the deeper the relationship, i.e., the more involved the experiences and the more quantity of experiences we had with that individual, the harder it will be to actually let them go and move on and move forward in life without thinking of them. And usually, if it's an experience that didn't go well, which is probably why we don't want to remember it in the first place, we're going to have negative emotions attached to it, which just makes it all the more harder to truly let it go. So, the way that I found that really helped me was, first of all, we're going to imagine that again, we are here to learn lessons. We are here to have unique experiences. We are here to take every situation and live through it for a higher purpose. And that's true for everyone, for us, including that other person in this particular relationship that we want to forget. Or maybe not forget, but at least move past. So we need to imagine that their soul and our soul, or at least if you want to ground this more in reality, i.e., the 3D, like ground this to earth and not think of this spiritually, then think of it as their unconscious and your unconscious, knowing that they have lessons that they need to learn and being in cahoots with each other, I guess telepathically, to learn that lesson, have that experience, go through that situation together. Without that person, without those experiences, without that relationship, you wouldn't be the person you are today with the knowledge that you have today, with the lessons that you've learned. So, again, the way that it makes it easier for me is I'm pretty spiritual. So, I like to think back to that Soul Cafe, which, if you haven't seen that video, it's essentially a way that I think about it is all of our souls are sitting up wherever they are outside of reality, outside of the 3D time and space. And they're in an internet cafe of sorts that's infinitely large, can fit everybody, and they're constantly in cahoots with one another so that we can accomplish the things that we need to accomplish here on Earth. And so the way that I thought about this was, well, if that person had to be in my life for me to learn certain lessons, then I was fully aware that they were going to be in my life. At least a part of me was. And that part agreed to this. That part agreed ahead of time to the relationship. It agreed knowing full well that the relationship might not last, might be hurtful, might suck, and it chose to go with it or go through with it anyway. And the other person did the exact same thing, mind you. That person knew that the relationship could go sideways, but that soul chose to do it anyway. And here's where it gets even more interesting for me. Sometimes in certain situations, there's a definite person that is right and one that is wrong, or multiple that are right, multiple that are wrong. But let's slim this down just to two people inside of this relationship. One is right, one is wrong, definitively. It's almost like you have a quest in a video game, and you know that you need to play the bad guy so that the other person can get through that quest successfully. Maybe you've already gone through that quest and somebody else was the bad guy for you, or maybe you're going to swap, you know. This time you're the good guy and they're the bad guy, and then in the future you might be the bad guy for somebody else, or even that same person. The point here is that when you think about things from this higher perspective, it really pulls you out of this mentality of trying to blame the other person, which a lot of times keeps us stuck in not being able to move past them, not being able to let them go, and to hold on to these really negative emotions tied to this person. So when we look at it from this higher perspective, we realize this person was just playing the role that we needed in order to learn whatever it is we needed to learn and grow. We needed that quest for whatever reason. And maybe today we're blind to the reason, but tomorrow we might not be. But let's have gratitude for the fact that this person did what they did so that we could learn that lesson. Because that's a sacrifice. So now we get back to the three pillars of self love, and we apply those same pillars, acceptance, forgiveness, and gratitude, here to this relationship, to outwardly love. We accept that that person was who they were, as they were throughout the relationship. We forgive that person for who they were, how they behaved, how they interacted with us, everything they did in the relationship. We have gratitude as a whole for the relationship because we did learn something from it. And if you feel like you haven't learned something from a relationship, I really argue with you and I beg of you, go look in the mirror, go figure out and analyze and reflect on that relationship and figure out what you did need to learn because every relationship has something you need to learn from it. So now that we've done all of that, we accept, we forgave, and we have gratitude, we can let that person go with love because we've applied those pillars of love to the relationship as a whole. We're no longer holding on to negative emotions. We're replacing all of those negative emotions with love, with something that just comes naturally. Have you ever noticed how, in order to have a negative emotion on something, it's like you have to sit there and concentrate on it? It takes energy. Love, on the other hand, doesn't seem to need that. It just flows, it's natural. So think of this relationship as what it is: a series of experiences, a series of situations, a series of lessons between you and another person that, from a higher perspective, you both knew that this needed to happen. And from your perspective, they were in the wrong. But that's just a role that they needed to play in your life so that you'd gain, again, those experiences and those lessons. And so now you can sit there and accept that person for exactly who they are without trying to change them. You can forgive everything that they did because you've accepted who they are exactly as they are without trying to change them. And you're thankful with so much gratitude for everything that happened exactly as it happened, the way that it happened, for you to learn those lessons and be the person that you are today, exactly as you are today, right? So you have self love for yourself, and now you have relationship love for that relationship. And you can now let it go and you can put it behind you, but you can always look back at it with a sense of gratitude and nostalgia because regardless of how bad it was, it built you to who you are today. And you have so much love for yourself that without those lessons, you'd be a different person. And you're so grateful that you're the person you are right here, right now. And another thing to keep in mind here is when we do let that person go, it's totally our choice whether we want to close the door entirely or leave it open. And there is no right or wrong answer here. It's whatever you feel is best for you. And a key thing here to recall is because each relationship gives us lessons, we might have fully embodied and learned those lessons while the other individual in the relationship might not have. And so, if you've incorporated your lessons and learned them, and that person hasn't, there's no way for that relationship to flourish because that person is stuck. And you've evolved into somebody that won't make those same choices and tolerate the same behaviors. So it's very important to understand that just because you're putting someone in your past and letting them go doesn't necessarily mean that you're closing the chapter completely. What you are doing, however, is closing the chapter and the book and the whole story on that past version of that person and that past version of yourself. The past you might have made different decisions and did make different decisions in the relationship, but the version of you today, or the version of you that will exist after you've learned the lessons and incorporated them, is one that won't have made the same decisions as you did in the relationship. So move forward with confidence, let them go with love, and start attracting the relationships that will mirror to you that you have learned your lessons, because you're going to just deflect and detract the ones that try to teach you the same thing again. Because again, you've already learned the lesson. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great one. Bye bye.